So I'm joined with Nate and Travis, and as you said when we joined this meeting, Nate, this has been a long time coming. So if you'd
Right.
start by introducing yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm Nate Feathers. You can find me on Instagram at Dads Don't Babysit. That tends to be the name I go by everywhere is that Dads Don't Babysit. And that's really me, father of six, and kind of gone through this whole life of being like working through like helping men become more than what they are, specifically because my belief is that we are the example to our children. So I got to be, when I look at myself, I'm like, I've got to be the best I can possibly be because every day I'm the example to them. And so what am I showing them? And if I can keep improving, that not only shows them that they can, but it also keeps the bar going up higher and higher. And that's what I'm looking for, so that my sons are better than me and my daughters marry men that are better than me.
Well said,
Awesome.
man.
Yeah, man.
And Travis.
Well, I kind of have the inverse of Nate. I do not have a family. It's the one thing in my life I've always wanted. And actually, I was just writing today about how that's probably my biggest driver, is actually my whole life learning how to be a great leader and role model and father and coach and teacher. I used to be a high school teacher. I still coach high school football.
Oh, cool.
But the reason I got into writing books about masculinity and being on these podcasts and being involved in all this stuff was because I had all this information that I've gathered over the years, and I am not passing it on to my family. So I'm hoping to use it to help pass it on to other men who can use it to help their families be great at being men and improve the whole world. I mean, it's obvious to me that fatherlessness is causing most of the problems in the world. And that's not just actual lack of presence, it's also lack of being good at doing it while you're there. If we could fix that, if we can make men better at being dads, at being leaders, at being role models, and I think that's all the same thing. We're going to improve the world, man. Get it back to how it used to be, and even better than that. TravisNeville.com. That's what I do.
Yeah,
Okay.
just wanted to touch on this because you were both mentioning the importance of fathers. There was a big debate, on at Icelandic standards, where you could say like the biggest representatives from the right, pretty much my coworker that runs one of the most popular men's shows in Iceland. It's not specifically for men, but it's mostly watched by men. And the biggest, most popular male feminist in Iceland, both men, obviously. And the it was really weird. One specific thing for me, which was watching when the male feminist was trying to deny the importance of fathers in children's lives. What do you guys have to say about that, Nate?
Whoa. Go ahead, Nate.
Yeah, just looking at statistics that I've shared over time, where when the father's not in the home, what you see is a higher level, and stats follow this, but a higher level of anxiety, teenage pregnancy. I think it's like 90 some odd percent of people in prison grew up without a father. It's insane the stats that go against what that guy is saying specifically, just on a level of statistics. That I don't even know where someone could come up with that and say that. And a lot of times, the unfortunate side is that I think, especially through social media, I just posted this. Like a guy I saw for Fit Fatherhood on Instagram posted this, and I couldn't remember who said it, but I saw this guy was talking about there's not been a quarterback who's won the Super Bowl.
I posted
That
that.
did you post that? I was gonna say I saw it for
Amazing.
Forfeit Fatherhood, and I'm like, there's not been a quarterback who's won the Super Bowl that was fatherless, and it's like
That one.
that right there. It's not a crack on moms. It's just a when the dad is in the house, there's so much more that mom has to focus on that dad takes off the plate, or the way the household runs is completely different. That that men stepping away from being dads is insane to me. Like you know, why you would ever think that role is not important. And I really truly think that feminist movement that is saying things like, well, women don't need men is complete and utter just total shit. Because if you ask men on the street, they'll be like, yeah, we need women. That's crazy. I love my wife or whatever it is. We need women. But if you ask women that same question, what ends up coming is that, no, we don't need men. And I'm like, we're so taking for granted that it's insane how much men are taking for granted that the only way you show how important they are is pull them out and see the chaos that ensues after that. Travis, I'd love to hear what you have to say about that too.
Man, the statistics just go on, and it goes right down, not just to day-to-day operation of the home, which Nate, you can speak to, I can't, but just on a genetic level, there are these things on your double helix, on your DNA strand at the end. They're called telomeres, these little tails, and the length of those predict a couple of pretty important factors. Number one is your likelihood to reproduce, and number two is the length of your life. And you were raised in a home without a father there, not just a man, but your father. Those tails get measurably shorter. In boys, it's like 40%. In girls, it's only like 25%. But in either case, no dad in the home means you might not be able to have kids. You might not live as long. I mean, girls are 100% more likely to be obese without a father in the home. Academic achievement goes way down. I know that from my time as a high school teacher, and of course doing the research. And man, homelessness, like you said, the amount of people who are incarcerated, behavior problems in school. I mean, all of this cliche stuff is actually true, and it's not just like a little bit true. Like the statistics are off the charts, how terrible it is. When a mother chooses to end a marriage or a relationship or whatever it is when there are children, she's putting her child at every statistical disadvantage when she kicks that dad out of the home. Every single statistic goes down. It's just terrible. And I don't know how people can not see that unless they're just deluding themselves, right? Fathers are huge. It's everything. I mean, I had a great dad growing up, and the reason I'm everything I am is because was such a good dad. Worked his ass off, and I watched him change. Like after I left, and all the kids were gone, he had created a persona. He had created a character that he kind of played for us. That was this great man. And a lot of that was him, but a lot of it wasn't. He was doing that for our benefit. And what a tremendous gift he gave me. So anybody who says that we don't need men just is not paying attention. I mean, how do you
Absolutely.
You can't even that's outrageous. That's like saying we don't need water.
Yeah. What blows my mind is that it's a man saying that, because like I have all sorts of things that I question whether I should say out loud, but
He's a
usually
male. He's a male. I wouldn't say he's a man.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, true. He's got the XY chromosome set up. But my issue with that is that I'm like, dude, are you a beta kind of guy who's just trying to get on the good side with women? And that's the kind of guy that feels like a snake to me, right?
Yeah.
That's the guy that if that's what you're doing, you're just trying to be good with women and then use that to your advantage. That feels so off and wrong, because again, there's so many statistics. I can tell you right now, I am in Knoxville right now, and for work, and my whole family is in Nashville. And like the night that I leave, the shift in the house is felt by my wife completely. The next night, like I literally stayed there until all the kids were asleep, so that they could feel the peace of dad get, like I put the baby down. Like usually I hold the almost 1 year old, get him to sleep, and then mama helps the 4 year old, and then I put the 4 year old down, and then we trade off however we do that, right? So I did that. The next night, all four of our littles, 9 years old down to one, were in our bed with my wife, because there's a safety. And like you're talking about that whole telomeres, I'm not even surprised by that, because the anxiety in the house of feeling safe the anxiety goes up, and the feeling of safety goes down the moment dad is not in the house. And I mean, that's not even, it doesn't even surprise me. My wife can't wait till I get home, because she's like, doing this alone is complete and utter insanity. One, for the getting things done, but two, from the feelings and the air of the house is totally different. Totally different.
One of the
I can
arguments,
imagine it would be.
yeah, one of the arguments that was made by the guy making this argument, obviously my coworker, he argued this point, but one of the arguments made was, at at the like early teenage years, they start to group up with other guys, and that's when they get their role models from, and they start like copying that behavior. But wouldn't you guys, what's your opinion on that? Isn't that just because they start to look, as you mentioned last time we spoke, Travis, if they don't have a strong father figure, then they start to look to their friends, and those friends, well, if they're bad influence, that's bad news for the boy, right?
Yeah, I think that, again, my time working in high school classrooms, it was 11 years I did that. And again, still work with these young guys. Mostly you hit those teenage years and you are comparing what you've been taught to what else is out there. So you'll find that mostly they're going to seek things that are in alignment with their sense of normal. So the things they've been taught as a young guy, again, a lot of that's just through exposure and less through words, right? So you know this, Nate, I'm sure. You can say do this, you can say do that, but what you do, they will definitely do, right? Um,
Absolutely.
and that's what it is. So you're going to watch what your dad does, and then you're going to be around your friends and start figuring out, hey, is this really what I think or not? Which is a very natural part of the maturation process for a young man. And again, more times than not, they're going to find those guys who align with what they've already been taught. And if in those years they weren't really taught anything, or what they were taught was bad, again, raised by single moms, schools are mostly female led. And again, we got to have women for sure, but
Right.
boys learn to be men socially, whereas girls learn to be women biologically. Boys have to see it. They've got to have the role models. And if they haven't had that, you get to those teenage years and you don't have anything normal to compare what you're seeing to, right? So now you're like, well, this is how they do it on TV, and this is what I saw this guy do on social media. And this one friend, everybody seems to like him, but he's the rebellious jackass kid who, causes trouble. And then you start, well, that must be what it is to be a man, because you don't know any different, right? You don't
Right.
know any better. So yeah, that's the biggest piece of it. And you know this as well, Nate. When the kids are really little, you are very important for lots of reasons, like you mentioned, the genetic things, the
Absolutely.
anxiety levels, all those, but you can't really functionally do a whole lot. When they start to hit 7, 8, 10, 12 years old, now you're the most important parent, and it's not close, especially
Yeah.
for a boy. Because those
Yeah.
girls are looking at, well, this is what a man is, this is who I'm gonna date, a guy like this. And a boy's gonna be like, this is who I'm going to be.
Yeah.
So that role again, and that happens so often in families here in the US. That's when the divorces happen. The kids get to middle school, and all of a sudden things are harder, things are weird. We're not both shoulder to shoulder, like dealing with this little kid. Now they're kind of on their own, and we get divorced. And that's when they need you the most. That's when they need dad the most, and he's the one that's not in the home anymore.
Yeah.
I don't know,
Yeah.
kind of went on that for a bit.
Yeah,
But
no, I completely agree with that. Like you're the superhero. That's the thing is
yeah,
every guy, we all dream about being a superhero, like when we're boys, but then you are the superhero to them to this level that if you just keep becoming the superhero, that's all I kept thinking about. And when I talk about self-discipline is the best discipline for our kids, it's that right there. Like as I got into my teenage years, I wanted to be built, right? I wanted to have muscles. I thought that would be what would get girls. I wanted to have abs. Like we think about, like I wanted to drive a Ferrari. Like, so you got to have money. So it's all the things that I can do as a dad to be that, not because I need to play a role or anything, but all the things I can do to be the things that they want. They're going to come back to me because I'm already the superhero. So the
yeah,
older they get, when they get into that teenage role, and he's like, well, I want to be built. Well, dad's got a six pack. So what does dad do? Dad, what do I do? Come to the gym with me. Now I get more time with him. Like, oh,
yeah,
like, what's your bench, dad? Oh, I bench this. Well, I'm going to bench more. Now we've got competition because there's testosterone in the
Yeah.
room and we're like pushing, and I'm just pushing my boys to be stronger, faster, better. And like everything, all the good things can be imparted because dad was willing to, one, be around, and two, be the best he could possibly be. And it just keeps going. We want to emulate guys that we respect. So be the guy they respect. Like just keep
that's
doing
it.
that. Like it's it. And
Yeah,
you have it naturally. They already naturally come to you. My 1 year old, I'm his person. I mean, like he nurses on mama and he needs her and he feels that. But dude, if I come in the house, if he's on the floor, he's rocketing around, like crawling. He's right there at that walking stage, but he's crawling, rocketing around the couch to get to me. And I mean, at my feet, reaching up to me like that. And he's with me the rest of the night. He puts his elbow on my shoulder, like, this is my boy. Like I'm with dad now. We're good. And that's the way they all are. And I think that's the way all boys specifically are. And you said it, Travis, that our daughters are like, this is who I'm going to date. I don't think they make that choice. I think subconsciously they're like, this is what a man is. This is what I look for. They don't even do that on purpose. It's just part of what happens. It gets imprinted on them. And dude, for me, the need to be the best I could possibly be in my life, for that reason right there. My boys to decide who they're going to be, and my daughters to decide who they're going to marry. It's huge. So I'm just like, you got to get better every day. Every day I'm like, I got to get bigger. I got to get stronger. I got to be faster. I got to be smarter. I just got to keep going.
Yeah, before we
no doubt,
continue,
man.
sorry, Travis.
The pushback.
I just
Go
wanted to
ahead.
say
Sorry, Jeff.
before we continue, I just want to make sure that everyone knows my voice has been really bothering me, so I will be coughing occasionally. I just want to apologize for that. Just speaking of, but why do
Vikings
you?
get sick too.
Yeah, why do you think that is? That like this recent, I want to say recent, maybe not in the like last couple of years, but in the last couple of decades. Why do you think the society has started to downplay the importance of fatherhood, Nate?
I'll take this one. I
Yeah.
think that's a
Go
pretty
for it.
easy answer, and it has to do with money. Marketers figured out pretty early on that women control, it's like 80% right now in the US of financial decisions within a home, no matter where it is. If you're married, if you're not, women are going to make a lot of those decisions. So you spend a lot of your time watching TV. That's just life. And a lot of kids, again, they get a lot of sense of normal from that. What's going on television now? It's your phone, etc. So all those messages are marketed to women. So the world has become very femme-centric. It really has. And as a result of that, feminism has become this. It's really since 1990. I wrote a big piece about Homer Simpson, about how right around 89, 90 is when The Simpsons came out and started to become popular, and how Homer Simpson he's not a good man. I mean, he's funny, but he's not respected in his home. He's fat. He's not good at his job. Like, he's not a guy you'd look up to at all. And they constantly berate him, and he's an idiot, and he's a doofus. Again, that's entertaining, but that dynamic started to become very popular right around that time, right around 1990, which happens to be exactly when the third wave of feminism started, which in my research is when feminism went from equality to superiority. It became a zero-sum game. Let's push men down. And nobody gets better from that, from pushing half the world down. I mean, I write it all the time. It isn't us or them. It's us for them. Okay, as men, if we're going to be great at being men, it's not because fuck women. My books aren't called feminism is stupid. They're called reviving masculinity. We're trying to make men better for women, for children, for families. That's what the three of us do. We're trying to make great men, great dads for the world, for everybody. And this feminism movement, like you said, it's not let's make women better for men, for families. It's just let's make women better. And in fact, the best way that they're doing it now, that they think they need to push men down in order to make themselves stand up. And of course it's not all women, but man, it's all universities. It's a lot of Hollywood. It's big pharma and big tech, and the government supports it. And Canada's in a jam because of that attitude. And I mean, that's really what it is. It all started with money, but the end result of it has been catastrophic.
Yeah. Oh, I gotta say that I didn't think about Homer Simpson, which totally makes sense. But it's like every single kid show, every single like comedy series, every single thing that has a dad in the home, he's the buffoon.
Yeah.
And I've hated that for years, because I'm like, why is this guy an idiot? That and that if you want somebody to accept something, make them laugh at it first. So make them laugh at dad being an idiot, and then we start being like, yeah, that's the way. And then it became that's the way men are, and now it's like there's a lack of respect all the way around as a result of that. And even men, were like men fall into it. They're just like, oh yeah, well, men are dumb, or men are like they only have one thing on their mind. And you know what I found as a dad and as a man who works with other men to help them become better? We don't only have one thing on our mind. There's a million things on men's minds. We just don't talk about it. And there's a lack of respect for them for that, to the level that they're just like, well, I don't talk about it because, one, it seems like nobody cares. And two, well, they only believe what they want to believe, and that's that I only think about sex, and it's just not true. It's not true at
Well, I
all.
mean, the sex thing, even if that were the case, I think most men wouldn't get this. I wrote this in my most recent book. I made a list of 21 things that you're gonna feel when you have sex with your woman. I mean, maybe that's okay, all I'm thinking about is sex, but I don't think most men realize what they're getting from that. You're getting the
Yeah.
feelings you're gonna get from making love to your wife are your approval. You're gonna feel
Mm-hmm.
attractive, you're gonna feel masculine, you're gonna feel deserving of love.
Mm-hmm.
Like, all these core things that real as men, in a lot of ways, we're not equipped to or certainly not taught how to sort of try to grasp on their own. You just know that when you don't have sex, you feel bad, and when you
Yeah.
do, you feel good, right?
Yep.
And that's it, but there's so many other facets to that, that again, most men aren't even verbalizing, where if
Right.
they could and the world is not gonna teach women that this is what men get from sex, and so this is the damage you're doing when you withhold it from him.
Right.
The world is not gonna teach a woman that, and men haven't been taught that either. They don't have the vocabulary to be able to express it. And so, I mean, I'm not saying that that's all men think about, but it is like sort of the gold standard of, are we doing okay in our relationship? Am I doing okay as a man? It's the
Yeah.
one place you know you can look to that's measurable. It's like looking at how much money I made as your level of success in the world, right? It's crass, but at least it's reliable. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. Totally true.
I also want to yeah, emphasize that even if you're not a parent, like this is also just general stuff. Like the stuff that makes you a good man is usually what makes you a good parent anyway. So it's like this doesn't this isn't strictly about parenting. It's about also just about like men in general. But I also
Mm,
think it's so good to see so many go because you don't see so many prevalent female influencers speak very openly against feminism. That's why I'm so like this radical feminism. That's why I'm so happy to see so many guys speak against like the red pill extremism, like the Andrew Tates of the world. Because while Andrew Tate, for example, is a great talker, like 50% of what he says, I've always said 50% of what he says is great stuff because he's addressing what is bothering men. That's why he gets so much attention.
sure.
But then he sells them poison as the solution. Like he sells them
Exactly.
that you should be
Exactly. Well
chasing,
said.
yeah, you should be chasing money, cars, loose women. Like what sort of purpose is that supposed to give you?
Yeah. Agreed.
I agree as well.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, I
why I
think
think
that
it's so
the
good.
number one thing you said there too is like money, cars. Those are all like fringe things. Loose women, like there's nothing like being and I think this is semi countercultural, but I think if men really like give into it, they could say, yeah, I can see that. There's nothing like having one woman that you love that loves you back. There's nothing on the planet like that. That
Absolutely.
for like for my sons, when I look at them, I'm like, look, like sex brings in a lot of other things. So just going out there like a crazy person and just doing it with whoever is insane for your own soul. But
Mm,
there is something amazingly
insane.
healing and wonderful about the one woman who loves you through all of the crap and goes through the thick and the thin with you, and making love to her changes your entire being. And I think that that's the sad part, is that somebody as large as Tate is perpetuating that idea of multiple women. And I'm like, dude, one will make your whole world be amazing. That seek out that virtuous woman, because she will make you the man you're supposed to be, I think.
Oh, there's no doubt. I've always said that a great woman is like the best mirror you can have in your life. I mean, guys like us, we take it for granted that we're always trying to improve, right? I want to get better in the gym. I want to get better at writing. I want to be better with understanding my own emotions. All the things that you can be good at, I want to be great at them. And having a woman there that you trust and who loves you, and you know that, is gonna be the best, sort of outside set of eyeballs. "Hey, I know you're trying to be better at this, and I'm telling you that this is what it looks like from the outside." And you're like, "Okay, I can take that information, and that's gonna make me even better." Or, "Hey, I know this is what you mean, it's what you're trying to do when you say, hey, I don't like where you park your car. I know that's where you're going with it, but you come off like an asshole. And if you just change a couple of words here, it's going to make it, you're going to have more effect. So
Yeah.
those things right there, I mean, you have to just be, and I think this reflects on Tate, it's just an immaturity. And he probably has never experienced that. Matter of fact, I can guarantee you, he's never had a very good woman in his life who he respects and loves and that respects and loves him. Because if he
Mhm.
did, he'd understand that. He'd understand those dynamics. Right now, he's just looking at women as no different than any car he owns or any house or the money. It's just an accomplishment or an achievement. It's a way to push it, push himself up. And that's not what it's about. When you get to the like Nate, you're teaching your sons that, which is absolutely amazing. They'll understand that at some point. A good woman will just teach you so much about yourself, and that's incredibly
True.
helpful.
True.
Yeah, also like the thing about Tate and his company is that they occasionally speak about you should be getting married and stuff like that, but they're only speaking about it. Like they're not living it, they're not showing it, and like that's hypocrisy to me, especially since he runs he's basically a pimp. He's admitted it. He's like uses the lover boy method of tricking women into like cam girl service stuff like that. So I don't want to waste too much time like talking about him. I was just using him as an example of
Right.
how much toxic influence there is out there for men, and like how important it is to point guys away from this stuff. It's like it's no different than when you're looking at young women having radical feminists as their idols. That's
Yeah.
not good.
And we talked about this earlier, the how men learn. You don't, you do what you see. You do what's
Yes.
been role modeled. What you say, what you're told doesn't really stick a lot of the time. And what you just said, John, is absolutely dead on with that. So here's Tate saying, "Oh, you got to get married, you got to whatever," but he's not doing that. You know
Mm.
what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, what's he doing? That's what guys are looking at, right? So it's ineffective, and in fact, it's hypocritical. I agree.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's why I think it's this is so important to show them, and the importance of I don't remember if I told you this last time, Travis, but when I was speaking to boys I was mentoring at this summer camp, we were discussing bullying, and
Mm.
like some of them were bullying others, and Nate, you addressed this earlier when you were saying about how all boys want to be heroes. I took
Mm.
them and took them to a seminar and gave them, which is your favorite Harry Potter character? And I gave them three options. One
Mhm.
of them was Draco Malfoy. I don't know if you watch Harry Potter, but
Mhm.
nobody selected him, obviously. And then I pointed out why. Why is no one selecting him? They're just because he's an asshole. Blah blah blah. And then I pointed to three of the kids. But what were you guys doing earlier? Weren't you doing the same thing? You were being this, and this is an example of how boys learn by you showing them things. They don't learn by you telling them things.
Absolutely.
I don't think
Absolutely.
I don't think you got to develop bullying in kids. They're going to be out there. They're going to be out there, and to that extent, I think in some level, especially for boys, I think they're good. You're going to
Yeah.
learn how to stand up for yourself. You're going to learn how to deal with that. You're going to have to learn how to deal with your own personal protection and the protection of others, whatever the outcome might be. You're going to have to get through some things in your head in order to deal with a bully. I'm thankful for the one I had as a young guy. Again, we're not going to try to create bullies out there to help develop kids. That's not the point. But you got to realize they're there. They are out there.
Yeah. Yeah. I tell my sons they'll get that way and then somebody will put hands on somebody else. That's normal kid stuff that you deal with in your house. They don't see that with me. I'm like, you guys don't see, I don't put my hands on you, like that kind of thing. But one thing I always say is, and they know it. I'll ask them the question. I'll say, when do we put our hands on someone? And they like roll their eyes and they're like, when the cage door closes, or if someone is being mean or bullying friends and family. And I'm like, that's it. When both of you enter a cage and he's about to punch me and I'm about to punch him, that's okay to put, because that's what you're there for, right?
Mhm.
And I know we used to fight, so that's kind of my example for real life. And then I'm like, or if someone, I'm like, this kid slapped one of my daughters, my older daughter at one point, and my son, I hadn't been talking like that to him yet. And so he didn't know what to do. And he was like, oh my God. And I'm like, dude, you will never get in trouble. If that happens again, you end it. And I'm like, you will never get in trouble from me. You may have to deal with the consequences of doing that on the bus or doing that at school, but
That's okay.
I'll stand in the gap for you up until a point, and then I'll just be like, well, I mean, you put hands on a kid, but that kid will never do that to you or your sister again. That's kind of that's how we do that. We're made strong to protect and love, not to push down. I'm always like, you're not made to oppress. You're made to uphold. Like, that's why our shoulders are big. That's why our muscles are stronger. That's why we're faster. We're made to lift up, not to push down. When we do that, we're doing the wrong thing. And I mean, it's funny because as soon as I say, when do we put our hands on somebody, they always, they're rolled their eyes. Like, when the cage door closes or when someone's mean to our family. And I'm like, there it is.
Yeah, Nate, I don't know if you're a football guy, but I make the same parallel, but I use football. And I say that men are offensive linemen. And I say exactly what you talked about. Broad-shouldered, biggest, strongest guys on the field. And their job is to make everyone else's job easier. Right. And the only time you're on the big screen is when you screw up. That's what it is to be an offensive lineman, but you cannot run a team. And when I say team, I mean family, neighborhood, community, the world without these guys. They're the most important people there. And as men, you've got to accept that your role is not going to be very flashy a lot of times. Your job is to do all these difficult things behind the scenes so that everyone else can live the best life possible and have the best start they can have. You got to accept that. You got to wrap your mind around it. It's not sexy, but it is.
Yeah, it may have been you, and I don't, but I don't know. I can't remember. It was a few months back. I saw that, like, it was like men are the offensive line, just like you said that, and I was like, wow, yeah, you're right. The role, it's not sexy. The role is to protect and make everything else happen, but you can't make any of that happen if that offensive line isn't there. I've heard that before, and I love that. It had to have been you.
Probably was. I say it all the time. It's in the last two of my last books.
There you go.
Yeah, I want your opinion on something as well. When we speak of this protective instincts, it really bothers me to see how often it is displayed, how men are often displayed as these oppressors or bullies or violent offenders, stuff like that, because almost all young men, as you were saying, they want to be the hero, they want to be the protector. But why are we failing so badly in showing them how? Why is that such a problem? Because let's face it,
lack information.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that there's a part of that, and I think it comes back to the feminism side of things, is that when you tell boys at that age that they're not needed or that strength isn't necessary, then they have no purpose. And a purposeless man is a dangerous man, in my opinion. I think we should be dangerous monsters. I've heard that from Jordan Peterson. I totally agree with it. I should be I want to raise dragon slayers, and you can't be a dragon slayer if you are not powerful, strong, and a monster. But the difference is that you can control that, and you have love and peace and calm inside you as well. And the problem is that when you tell boys and young men that they're not needed and that that's not wanted, they have no place to put that. And all that does is create a rage inside of them, like raging against the world. Like, I have no reason to be here. I have no reason to live. That's why suicide rates in boys and men is so much higher, because, well, now I have no purpose. And, I give that to men as dads. I'm like, this is your purpose. You are like, we should be able to protect and love and keep them safe. And all of a sudden, when you tell your boys that, when I look at my sons, and I'm like, watch after your sister, you protect her. Like, so many people, I'll say that, and people will be like, well, she should be able to throw a punch. My daughter should never have to throw a punch. She has 4 brothers, right? Like, my daughters have 4 brothers and a dad. Like, they don't ever have to throw a punch because either I'm coming and it's real bad, or the boys will just take care of it. Like, it's not a threat. It's just how we are. You know?
Nate, I bet you that same person who would tell you that your daughter should be able to throw a punch will shame the shit out of your sons for throwing that same punch.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? This whole idea of I don't need a man, which you hear all the time. And again, I'm single dating guy, so I run into women who say that stuff all the time. That is maybe the most insulting thing you could possibly say, because what men need to be is needed. Protection and provisioning. These are things that, I built my own house. I make money. I do all these things that, I do that stuff so that I can provide it to a family. Whereas a lot of women, they do all that stuff so that they don't have to have a man around. And when you say that to a guy, when I hear that from a woman, she's instantly off my list. Like, I'm not interested in you. If that's what you think, we're never going to work out, because I need you to need me.
Yeah.
I do. So that never ends. That's not just a thing for boys, that's men as well. You need to be needed, okay? Women wanna be wanted, they wanna be loved, but men wanna be respected and
Right.
appreciated, right? It's a
Yeah.
different dynamic, and, yeah, that need thing, again, that phrase, "I don't need a man," oh,
Well,
man, you wanna make sure you're never gonna get a good man, keep saying that shit. Keep calling
right.
yourself independent, okay? That'll make sure you're
Right.
single forever.
Well, yeah, and that whole like this whole, and I'm sure I'm stepping it when I say this stuff, but I don't really care. It's like this whole like concept of, oh, the patriarchy, the patriarchy. I'm like, yo, that was created to keep virtuous women protected. Like
Yep.
there is evil in the world, and a lot of times it's perpetuated by shitty men. But
Mhm.
but the patriarchy and the idea came to protect, like fathers protected their daughters until another man was there to protect them. That's because back in the day, it was violent and savage, and you had to be a
Mhm.
savage man to protect your virtuous daughters and wife
Yep.
from the savagery. And it's like they spit all over that, and I'm sitting here going, no, sons. I look at my sons and my daughters, but I'm really, I hone in on the boys because I'm like, that matters. Like there were these, like we were driving down this road and it was kind of like just, it was a highway, but it wasn't traveled that much. And I looked to the side of the road and there's four, like they looked like they were 12. They looked like they shouldn't have been driving, but there were four teenage girls on the side of the road and they had gotten a flat tire. And my son, my oldest son, he's 20, was with me. I pulled off to the road and I'm like, do you guys, is somebody coming? Like, what's going on? Let me change your tire. We changed the tire. We did all the stuff. And when we got back in the truck, Zeke and I are talking, and I said, I do that because I think about my daughters. And if they were
Mhm.
on the side of the road, I want a good man who is not with intent to hurt them to keep them safe and to take care of them, right? I know how to change a tire. I'm also the guy that's going to help you and not hurt you. I want that for my daughters if I can't be there. And so I stop with that kind of stuff every time. And I said, we stop. That's what we do because we are good men. And the moment one of us shows up, the bad men will keep on driving.
They sure
And
will.
that's the whole point. That's what we do. It's like, oh, well, you know, feminist women are like, you want equality, we'll change your own tire. Yeah, but then they're not safe. And I know that. And we know that on this podcast. But unfortunately, I think there's this arrogance that comes with that feminist down with the patriarchy idea that forgets that there are evil men that will overpower them. And that's what I'm raising my sons to fight.
Isn't it
This will
also,
help you.
sorry?
It has helped me to think about that in these terms, both of you guys. When they say those things, what they are doing is advertising our incredible effectiveness as men in creating the environment that is so safe that they're allowed to say shit like down with the patriarchy and fuck men and I don't need a man. You don't realize that you only see this much of the world and all the bad shit is being protected from you, being taken away from you by those same men. We've created the luxury of them thinking that way.
It's
So
totally
when I
true.
hear somebody say that, I've trained myself to just smile and say, just think to myself, you're welcome.
Yeah, that's
You know?
that's so good.
Isn't
That's
it
so
also
good.
rather ironic that the same people, I'm just going to say people, it's because it's not always women. There's plenty of weak
Oh
men
yeah.
that downplay the importance
Sure.
of being able to protect your family. The same people that downplay this ultra protective instinct that so many of us have, are the same people that then start to complain of how dangerous the streets are, how dangerous the world is. I find that to be one of the biggest of ironies that I can actually think of.
Oh yeah.
You gotta just ignore it. They're like kids. They're like little kids.
You see it in little boys. I mean, if you've ever like if I ever like get after mom and like start tickling or messing with her and she's like, help, help, help. The boys are like, they're coming after me, right? I'm gonna get a nut punch or something because they don't know what else to do. And so they're trying to protect mama. I didn't that's innate in us. And so I just let that be. Like let's cultivate it. Good men have to be able to do that. And you're right. It's so funny that you said that. I've never thought of it like that. Like the view of the world is so small to not see all the danger around that they're able to say, oh yeah, we don't need that or down with that. And you're like, you're welcome. That's a great way to see that for
I just
sure.
enjoyed it.
Yeah, these waves of violence that we're seeing recently. I don't know if it's in the US, but in Europe, how dangerous the streets are getting for women and stuff like that. And I think a lot of people messed up very badly when they started to think, downplay the factor that protective instincts play in keeping our society safe. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
I don't think we're seeing it too much here. I mean, the last time we really saw anytime I felt like there might be some trouble in the streets was 2020, and all
Oh,
those
sorry.
BLM riots were sponsored by George Soros and a bunch of idiots who wanted to burn the country down. I think mostly we're starting to get rid of that. The riots, the protests that are happening now, I just see them as like parades. Like you don't have any, you don't really have, you don't even know what you're protesting against, and you're certainly not dangerous. A bunch of purple-haired idiots out there going crazy. Yeah, I don't feel like the streets are unsafe at all. Matter of fact, I think that, and I'd like to hear what you think, Nate, that since Trump got elected, and I'm not a huge Trump guy, but I do
Sure.
like what he's doing.
Sure.
Since that happened, I feel like more men are more willing to say, yeah, shit, it's about time. Like these
Yeah.
things need to change, and more men standing up and being proud of who they are. And hey, you're not instantly bad because you're a straight white male. You know what I mean? Like I think some things like that culturally are starting to loosen up again, and guys are feeling more comfortable, which is going to make the world safer. What have you seen,
I think that that's
Nate?
totally true. I think that that's true. I feel that, you know, with a lot of what's going on with like illegal immigration and where you're seeing violence happen through that, people are frustrated. And I think social media specifically, you see a lot more women interacting on social media than men, and because they're more social in the sense of like willing to talk and do more stuff like that. But it makes it look like that the rest of the world thinks like that, and the truth is they don't. And I think Trump's popular vote and then his obvious electoral vote proved that if you want to call it a silent majority, I'd rather them be more vocal, to be honest, because then, you know, like you said, these guys didn't feel like they could say anything, and I'm going, I wish you would say something,
Me
because
too.
there's a very few people out here saying something, and we actually are speaking for the majority, but the majority is hiding behind that, and that's unfortunate. So I am glad for it, because it's showing the reality was not what was shown through those kind of riots you were talking about, or even what you see on social media. You know, you can do anything with bots, it sounds like.
No doubt, man. Man, it happens all the time. Just on a kind of personal note, the bots that I get coming after me. You know what I mean? And you look
Yeah.
at them, and they've got like 0 posts. And it's a private account, and oh man, it's most of the haters. It seems like are just bots.
Yeah, agreed.
On the topic of masculinity, I'm curious.
Either over Zoom or
I think that's you, Nate.
That's me. I'm moving. Yep, I'm moving.
Good.
I'm
Yeah,
at work, so it's one of those things.
I'm really glad that we're seeing so much lately that people don't think masculinity is automatically toxic. What do you guys think? Do you believe in toxic masculinity? And if so, what is it?
Go ahead, Nate.
I don't think masculinity is toxic. When you say toxic masculinity, it sounds like masculinity is toxic. I think that there are toxic people who do dumb stuff, and they need to be handled. And that's just boys who haven't learned to be men yet, really. And they just happen to be boys inside of men's like bodies. But as far as masculinity, I am seeing a lot more people leaning towards that. And I get to see it in my own home. My wife is like, I want to be in my feminine. I just want you to I want you to do the masculine things, because I want to lean on you. Like, she's perfect for that. That whole, I don't need a man. She totally is the opposite direction to that. And it makes me be like, I want to step into that role. I want to step in more. And I think that is, I'm seeing a lot more of people saying, yeah, toxic masculinity isn't a thing. There's just men who are doing bad things, and that's just evil. There's evil femininity too. There's toxic femininity, but it's not really that. It's evil people or bad choices showing up in men and women. The masculinity side of it is good. It's so good. That's the beauty of it, is that true masculinity is phenomenal.
Yeah, I would agree, Nate. I think there are two categories that people call toxic masculinity. The first category are just the things that make you different than women. Okay, things
Mhm.
like being competitive, risk taking, rough and tumble play, all those things. Those are just
Yep.
what make you different than women. And so, of course, women don't understand that. And that's okay. There's things about women that we don't understand, and that's for damn sure. The second
Yeah, right.
category of things that women want to, mostly women or people call toxic, are just things that we would say that just makes you an asshole, like misogyny,
Yeah,
or emotional unavailability. You know, cutting off your partner is who the fuck does that? That doesn't help you.
right.
Hating women, that doesn't help you. That's just being an idiot. That's being an asshole, and that certainly is not exclusive to men. I mean, women do that same shit. So yeah,
Definitely.
that's how I break it down. Is just those two categories. And yeah, toxic masculinity is just something made up. It's not. It's not really real.
Yeah.
I'm also of the opinion that the most beautiful 5 words that a woman can hear is "I'll take care of it."
Mm,
That's just a personal
yeah,
theory, but I'm big on that
Yeah,
one. It's what
right.
every woman wants to hear.
yeah. They have
Well,
this emotional turmoil all the time up there, and so thankful that we don't have that. And anytime you can provide any kind of bolster to that, any kind of clarity, any kind of peacefulness, you're providing tremendous value to a woman when you say that, or whatever it is, whether it's an emotional thing or a physical thing. I agree. I agree, John.
no, I totally agree as well. It's down to the dumbest little level of ordering pizza.
Mm.
Like my wife is like, I don't want to order. I don't want to talk on the phone. I want you to do that. It's like, I'll take care of that. Like, you're totally right. That those words are awesome, and I think I can test to it all the way down to ordering pizza.
Yeah, I agree.
You were talking about rough and tumble earlier, Travis, and
Yeah.
I am absolutely also of the opinion that if you don't teach boys healthy ways to get rid of that energy, to get rid of that need to, test themselves, to compete against other men in healthy ways, you can't suffocate that instinct. It's going to break out. And are you getting a healthy outlet for it, or are you going to create a troublemaker?
And where's it going to go? I mean, if you have that, we will agree that genetically it is who you are as a male. We are all descended from generations of victorious violence. Okay. People, even 200 years ago, that you are related to, kept you alive. The reason you're here is because they killed people to maintain your access to food or water or sexual reproduction or whatever it is. They were willing to fight and die for that, and they won. Descended from losers because they died. We've got that in us genetically. And if you're not getting into the cage, hitting the heavy bag, having your kid be a wrestler or a football player, if you don't have some sort of a martial pursuit like that, well, then it's going to come out when it shouldn't. You're going to punch walls and get into road rage and, get all pissed off about shit and yell and do dumb shit. Now, at least you look like a dick. And at worst, you got a lot of cleaning up to do, right? If you're doing
Yeah.
that at home. So you got to learn how to get that out of you. You got to, again, step one is to accept it's there. It is, it's part of you. So you got to get it out. You got to get in the cage. You got to roll. You got to go to jujitsu, whatever you're doing. You've got to tap into it. You got to get rid of it.
I don't really have anything to add to that because I fucking loved everything you just said.
Thanks, Brent.
Yeah, but just as an example, less than 200 years ago in Iceland, there was a huge volcanic eruption that wiped out 75% of the livestock and about approximately 50% of the people in the entire country. So you can just imagine what it took to survive in that kind of climate. Like it was dark for
Yeah.
2 or 3 years, I think. So
Yeah.
as you said, survivors of victorious violence. I think that's a great
That is a great statement. That's a great statement. I love that. I've not heard
Second.
that, but I love that.
It is not trademarked. Use the shit out of it. That's what we're here for, improve each other.
I'll put a
Right.
TM at the end every time I use it. But I absolutely
Right.
agree with this. I can't stand how people. Thankfully, people are waking up to the propaganda that is around all this stuff. That is around being strong, tough, good man. Like I can't stand the propaganda that's been, as we were talking about earlier, how it's all been downplayed. How we're supposed to be this goofball instead of the hero in the house.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Mark Rudd as the sexiest man alive just about made me want to puke. I mean, sure, he's a handsome guy, but there isn't much masculine about him. Every role he ever plays is self-deprecating, and he's always kind of a sidecar and happy wife, happy life type of guy. And he's a total beta. That's the sexiest man alive. What the fuck is going on with my country? You know what I mean?
Like, I love talking to you, Travis. It's fun because it's that's what every guy's thinking. Like real guys are thinking that. They're like, for real? Like, what the fuck? And I just think about guys like, if you want to go that route and leave it on like famous people, like Tom Hardy's at least a badass.
Right.
You know, like
Big fan.
there's so many guys, and I'm like, he's a good looking dude. And in my own strength, I can say that's a good looking man, and he's
Yep.
also a scary human being.
Mhm.
I mean, pick him.
Yeah, why not The Rock? I mean,
Yeah,
I'm
for
still a
real.
fan of him. He's a little over the hill, but at least he's a bad dude. At least he's dangerous.
Right?
You know,
Right?
let's start there.
Totally true.
I saw a meme recently that was this huge guy sitting on a bench with this small guy in a suit berating him, and and it had a text along the lines of, "There's no more humiliating experience than accept than being berated by a man that you could kill with one hand just because you need a little money."
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's definitely points in life, and I've only come across this very rarely, but it's like you need to reset the natural order of things. I mean, I had just going to share a quick story. My stepfather, my mom's remarried, and we kind of he had been treating me pretty poorly for a few years, and I just took it because I didn't want to make problems for my mom. And at some point there, I realized, listen, dude, you're not my dad, without being cliche. You don't make more money than I do. You're not smarter than I am. You certainly can't kick my ass like that. You can't talk to me like you're talking to me. At some point, I had to stand in front of him, squared, you know, because men don't stand face to face. That's confrontational. Normally, we stand 45, right? That means we're chill and everything's cool. That's confrontational. So I confronted him and had to let him know, man, you don't understand where you stand here. Okay, I'm going to tell you these
Right.
are things you can't do and you can't say. And I just had this tremendous sense of peace after that, that I had reset the natural order of things. Okay, that's the way that it is supposed to go. And if we don't do that, then you're the big guy on the bench. Like that dude
True.
needs to know where he stands. He needs to get checked. That's locker room environment. That's locker room mentality. You need to know where you stand in a hierarchy among men. You have to know that. That's part of what it is to be in athletics and to be around other men. You figure out sort of what the pecking order is, what'll stand and what won't, what you can handle, what you can't handle, what this guy can handle, what he can't handle. You've got to always be checking that and setting that hierarchy, not by being an asshole, but
Right.
occasionally when someone's way out of line like that, you got to set them. You got to set them straight.
I think that actually plays really well inside of fatherhood too. Like I'm bigger than my sons. Like my 20-year-old came, not in a bad way, just came at me one time thinking he could do something. And I got underneath his arms and I whipped him around. He's like, go, yeah, okay. And it's banging against the bigger man to one, sharpen your skills and get stronger and be better. I want my boys to do that. And at one day I hand that off to being like, but I'm going to make you chase it, you know, like, and that's fine.
Not gonna make it easy.
Like, yeah, and it goes back to that whole concept of small men and feminist style men. They're dangerous because they don't do that and they've not been forced to. Yeah, I agree. You got to check that.
Yeah, they become, you know, like women. They get into that passive aggressive stuff you mentioned very early. And they
Right.
get into the backstabbing and you can't trust that guy. If he doesn't understand the hierarchy, you can't
Truth.
trust him. You don't know what he's doing behind your back.
On the
True.
topic of hierarchy, I'm going to defer back to that debate I've mentioned at the start, where these two guys were talking, and one of them was raising his concern, the male feminist, that in the last few years, like no one wants to hear what he has to say. Those were his words, and he blames the
What?
blues. That's who he blames for this, even though he has had like government guaranteed access to young men through lectures in schools, everything, he's just not reaching them. And when I was watching this interview, my biggest thought was, if this guy was in a room with 10 random men, he would not be the one in the room calling the shots. He would not be the one that would be listened to. No one would probably want his advice in any circumstance that I can think of. I think one of the most important ways that you can find out where you stand in a hierarchy is just go be in a room full of men. You'll see where you stand.
very quickly. Yeah, you really will. I mean, that's another reason why I coach football. I work with other grown men, and it's obvious kind of where things fall.
I think women should be extremely careful of guys that other men don't trust.
Absolutely.
'Cause,
No, unfortunately, the world's telling them that that's the guy that they should be interested in.
yeah,
That's the world's telling them that the Paul Rudd is the guy that they should be into, the guy they should marry. And I don't think that, the birth control ain't helping either. I mean, I've seen a bunch of studies about how women who are on birth control prefer more feminine men. And as soon as they get off of it, now all of a sudden the masculine guy is much more attractive to them. Or when they're ovulating, the masculine guy is more attractive. I don't want to go into that pharma crazy shit, but that's definitely one piece of it for sure.
the uh, the birth control thing, I've actually I read a big study on that. Is that they were made to sniff T-shirts to tell
Yeah, I
if they
read that same
found
one.
their pheromone attractiveness stuff. And when they were on birth control, they were picking, they were finding the scent that had less testosterone attractive. And when this was done over a long period of time. And then when they were off birth control, they would be much more drawn to the guys with much more testosterone.
Yeah.
Now, that
I mean,
makes total sense.
yeah.
Honestly, I think it makes sense, and I've seen that study as well. It's crazy how that works, but I mean, you can't really would you say trust the science? There you go.
I mean,
Yeah,
I
it's
think I
safe and
think
effective,
it's
right?
I think there's a reason that confidence, broad shoulders, and height are universally the most attractive traits women vote in men anywhere in the world, culture unrelated.
Yeah, if you guys haven't read Dr. David Buss's book, The Evolution of Desire, it's very thorough, goes through a lot of different cultures and through a lot of different time periods. And John's absolutely right. That's how it breaks down, no matter what. And I think the softer men, the male feminists, are a direct result of women wanting that more. And a lot of that is because of birth control. We, I think, as men are very adaptable to our environment. And if women are wanting these certain things, it's easy for a guy who doesn't really have a good solid definition to shift that way. Now, we're not going to do that, three of us, and most men won't, but there are a lot who will. They'll do whatever they got to do to get a chick.
It's true. I mean, being the short guy in the room normally, that's why I work out so much. I'm I got to broaden the shoulders because I'm lacking in the height department.
Gotta be the Wolverine.
That's right. That's it
But
right there.
I think also with the feminist women that you speak of, they just want more harmless men, but not for themselves. That's why a lot of these guys are so bitter. They do what they've been told, be a good boy, but wait, it's not getting me anywhere. So it's
Yeah. And again, that's what makes them dangerous as well. I think
Yeah.
to both, backstabbing men and dangerous to women, in my opinion.
Yeah, and they're still descended from the same killers that we are. So they're
Right?
going to find ways to. Yeah, I agree. It's a dangerous situation, and that's why we do what we do. We're trying to help these guys be better at being men.
Absolutely.
So what do most men have to approve about themselves, in your guys' opinion? What's the most frequent thing that you see that a man needs to, what's the number one thing that they would need to improve in themselves? Like the first
Go ahead,
biggest
Nate.
thing.
I think mindset is your first move. I think that's the number one thing. You have to change how you see the world, how you think about things. The body can follow that. Normally if a guy is I don't know what to do, I might start him in the gym and be like, look, you need to start working out, because that will change the mindset thing. But that will bring the mindset as it goes, especially if you're working out with somebody else. But I still come back to mindset. You have to have the mindset that says, I'm going to be a certain way, and then you go after that. And just change will start the process completely, and you'll never look back.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I would probably word it differently just because the way I have done my writing. But I always say this, that you as a man, you need neither their permission nor their appreciation to be great at being a man. You don't need anybody to tell you this is what you need to do, but you do need to do it. And nobody has to thank you. Nobody has to pat you on the back. They can even not like it. Matter of fact, at times they won't. That's what it is to be a father, Nate. I'm sure you know. You don't need their permission to be their dad. There's a ton of shit you're going to do that they would not ask you to do, but you know it needs to be done. Okay.
Right.
And there are going to be people who disagree, and there are going to be people who don't understand it. That doesn't make it not important. That doesn't mean you don't have to do it. You know, I
Yep.
look at the bully thing. Your boy comes home from school and he's being bullied, and you know his mom, rightfully so, is going to want to protect him. Go down to the principal, give him a stern finger wagging, maybe call the other boy's mom. But you know, as a man, that that's not going to do anything to help him. What you're teaching him again is that his problems, and in fact his own personal safety, are someone else's problem. So you
That's right.
take him into the basement, you get his hands up. Let me show you how to do this. This is the left hook, and she won't understand that. And damn it, I don't want her to understand it. Okay, I don't
Yeah.
want her to. Just like there are things like you don't understand what it's like to grow a baby inside you. You're never going to understand that. So there are things we don't understand about each other, but that doesn't mean we don't respect them. And that's the thing you have to get across to your woman when you are teaching your boy how to defend himself. Hey, there are things about men that you're probably not going to get, but this is what needs to happen. You know,
True.
I think that's a big piece of it.
Very true. Very true.
Yeah, I do remember. I was going to mention it earlier, but it slipped my mind when you were saying about your boys, having a go at you just to see where they stand. It was 10 years ago. We haven't repeated it since, but my boy was my boy. Well, he's 26 now. He was
Good for you,
16
bud.
years old. He was already
Yeah,
fully
it's
grown.
awesome.
He's 6'4", like 280 pounds or something at the time. He just won the national judo championship at his age. And we were at my sister's house, and he decided to, have a try because I was doing MMA at the time, and I actually I choked him out, and I think it was a triangle choke that I ended up getting him in. And then I just told him, better luck next time, Junior. This was easy as hell. And I went into the next room. I've never told him this, but I went into the next room and just
Yeah, of
catching
course
my
you
breath
did.
because I was completely knackered. But I managed to hold my cool just long enough to go into the next room.
Good for you.
I'm actually
Yeah, good for
terrified
you, man.
when we repeat this because I'm a lot older now, and
Right.
How big are you, John?
I am 6'1", 186 centimeters.
Oh, 186 centimeters. Okay. I thought you meant 186 pounds. I'm like, shit, man, you look a lot bigger than that.
I thought so
I'm
too.
I'm somewhere around 250 or something like that
That
in
sounds a lot
American
more
units.
right.
Yeah.
There you go, my boy. Yeah. I'm the same height, but I'm only about 215. So I still run a lot.
But
Gotcha.
I would love to do this again sometimes, guys. We've been at it for an hour, and I can feel my voice is getting consistently worse. I want to apologize again to anyone listening for the coughing fits. I'm gonna try to cut some of them out, actually, like this one. And
Not that one.
if you guys want to say something, some final words.
Go ahead,
Go
Nate.
ahead, Trent. Yeah, man, I'm really glad to be able to do this kind of stuff and to join with other men. I have plenty of people that'll say, I wish more men, like it's usually women that'll say, I wish more men got this or whatever when I'm posting. And I'm like, I am part of a rising group of men that are doing exactly this. And I love extending that and being able to say that there are multiple people out there that are doing this and doing this work. I'm hyped about it and I love it. And so I'm glad you've gotten to be here on this with you guys.
Yeah, I'm glad, Nate. And on a kind of a side note, we have a Instagram group of some pretty heavy hitters. Johnson there, Adam Allred, Jack Donovan. I'm sure you're familiar with him.
Yeah, I know them.
A couple other guys. Anyway, we've got just an Instagram group text basically with these dudes, and essentially it's a place where we can try out ideas, give advice. It's just us getting better at what we do. And I'd love to invite you and throw you in there if you don't mind, Nate.
Oh, that'd be great. I would love that. Absolutely.
Cool. We'll do it. Yeah. So same thing here, man. I love that people are doing this, trying to improve men. And I believe that the political change that just happened, we're going to start to see some real improvement. And that, man, I'm so encouraged by that. It almost makes me emotional because I feel like we've been behind a collar for so long. Men have been, and I feel like that's going to change here. So I'm pretty pumped about that.
I agree.
I'd liken it to the fact that you've been like slowing the tide for such a long time, and just finally you're starting to push it back. If you know what I mean. That's
Yeah.
how
It
I
feels
view
like
it.
the morning after too much drinking and Taco Bell. It feels like that toilet visit. It's all coming out finally. You know what I mean?
Well, I just I would really like to add that I also just like talking to you guys. You're fun. Like learning from
Likewise.
other guys as well. So I'm just really glad that
Same.
we were able to do this, and I mean it when I say I hope we can just make this a regular thing, or something.
Sure,
I
man.
love
You
that.
organize it. I'll show up.
Same. Love it.
All right, guys. Thanks you for showing up, and I'll see you guys later. I'm really sorry for my lack of voice.
Don't worry about it, bro.
Yeah,
You're
man. All
fine.
good.
All right, I'll catch you later.
All right. See you guys.